Welcome, one and all, to episode 23 of Reese Rambles, the official podcast of Control-Alt-Reese, the global sensation, international award-winning YouTube channel that it is. And a big welcome is in order to all of my new listeners who've come in off the back of the This Week in Restro episode last week, and my channel update that went out on my main channel as well. And because of the format of last week's episode, I didn't do a preamble before I started, and there's quite a lot of stuff to talk about. So I guess we'll talk about that now, as well as the other stuff that's happened in the previous week, and the fact that I've been incredibly busy, and the fact that I've not timed anything very well at all as far as releases and things are concerned. So if you're expecting another roundup of the week's news, I'm afraid I have some bad news for you, and that is basically that I'm recording this earlier in the week this time around, just because of my schedule this week, and because I don't want to break my streak. Obviously 23 weeks in is quite an achievement, especially as I've been away for a lot of that, or at least some of that. I'll have to get back to the news another time. But I've got a big list of stuff in front of me that I'm going to talk about, and hopefully we'll find it interesting. And also going to be talking about something that's bang up to date and like hip and cool with the kids. But we'll see how well that goes down. But yes, the channel update went out, and as I mentioned a couple of episodes back, I was quite I wasn't all that confident putting that out there. I really wasn't sure how it would be received, because I talked about stuff like advertising and sponsorships and my Patreon and ways of supporting the channel and that side of things. And that stuff quite often doesn't go down very well. People don't like to be reminded that there's an option to pay for stuff, even though, I don't ask people to do it. I don't beg people to do it. I don't really lock anything away behind a paywall or anything like that. There is some kind of bonus content and stuff on there, but, it's more a kind of case of just me hitting record on the camera and doing some stuff just to give people a little bit extra, so... Anyway, I'm basically trying to persuade people not to sign up now, aren't I? Which is the polar opposite of what I should be doing as a content creator, but there you go. But the point being that was actually received quite well. It was received really well, as intended, and it was so massively off topic for my channel as well. Not one of my usual sort of highly produced documentary productions that I tend to do. Definitely more something that would have normally gone on the second channel or on here, but I think it's good to put that out in front of that main channel audience and just kind of have that conversation with them as well, because they are. I mean, I guess everyone who listens to this and who watches my second channel also watches all the stuff on my main channel. I think it'd be a bit weird if you weren't. I think you're probably missing out on the good stuff. But of course, the inverse isn't true. The audience on that channel is so much bigger, and then a lot of them aren't even aware that this exists. So I think just occasionally, reminding them that I have a second channel and a podcast and stuff, and just kind of talking a bit about what's going on behind the scenes is beneficial. But I'm not gonna do it too often, because that's not really what I want to do with that channel. But anyway, here I am rambling once more, living up to the name of the podcast. So, as I mentioned, I have been really busy this past few weeks. I went away on holiday. It was Catherine's 40th birthday, and then the weekend after we got back from that, we had a big party at our house as well, of course, because we couldn't take all of our friends on holiday with us, much as we would have liked to. And the holiday was actually really relaxing. It's not a typical one for us at all. We're not the kind of people who like to sit around the beach and sit around the pool and read books and things, but that's pretty much exactly what we did for the entire week, and it was very relaxing and it was very nice. So we went to Croatia. We managed to miss out on just missed the massive heat wave that's just hit Europe. It was like 32, 33 degrees C, something like that at the time that we were there. So really nice weather. One day there was a storm, which I think was kind of brought in by that heat wave. And that was the day that we went swimming in the pool because everyone cleared out and pretty much had the whole pool to ourselves because it was raining. But it was warm, so why not? Why not? But anyway, there you go. You're going to get wet anyway, so why not, go in the pool? You can get rained on, swim in the pool. What's the difference? No problem. And no queue for the bar either, which is good when you want lots of pina coladas in the rain. There was a song about that once, wasn't there? Yeah, anyway. So yeah, there's that. There was a holiday, and then there was the party when we got back, which was really cool. And it also rained for that as well. In fact, it was absolutely torrential, which is fantastic. Typical British barbecue weather, but we persevered, and we had the barbecue, and we had a wonderful time. And yeah, this weekend, my best friend Sam and my other best friend Rachel, his other half, are getting married down in London. So their wedding was originally booked for 2020 at a really nice kind of local countryside venue, really lovely. And then, of course, it was 2020 and that got cancelled. And then the venue actually went bust and it's now under new ownership. But it took them a really long time to get their money back, and it was quite a lot of money. And, it was all a bit touch and go at one point. But thankfully, they did manage to get their money back, and they managed to rebook something much, much smaller. But they're getting married in... I never know how to say this. Marylebone in London. Is that how you say it? Marylebone? Marylebone. But yeah, at the town hall, I think it's called, apparently where Paul McCartney got married, one of the times that he got married. I think he's been married a few times, hasn't he? So that's cool, very British, and we're doing like a London bus, classic London bus tour thing with lots of alcohol and stuff involved as well, of course. So yes, very British. And apparently it's going to rain this weekend as well while we're in London. So yeah, rains down on my entire existence at the moment. But you got to stay positive and yeah, apart from the fact that it's wreaking havoc with my my YouTube schedule and stuff, I'm trying to stay on top of things, but I really would like to get something out on the main channel sooner rather than later. But yeah, just kind of overcommitted on stuff and too much real life stuff going on at the same time. So you'll have to settle for my second channel offerings and of course the podcast until things get back on schedule, which will be next week, I promise. Now, I've been playing a new Doom game. I know, well, it's new to me. It's not new. It's Doom 64, which was originally released on the Nintendo 64 back in 1997. And there was a remaster, which was, I think that came out, was that last year or was it the year before? I can't remember. But that was done by Night Dive Studios, who of course did the Quake remaster as well, and remastered some other stuff. MVG, Modern Vintage Gamer, if you're familiar with his YouTube channel, Demetrius, he was the lead developer on those projects. I think he's since left and moved on to other things. And yeah, so they took Doom 64 and they remastered it and they released it on PC and Xbox and the Switch, I think, at the time. And I'd never played it. And I'm a massive Doom fan. I love the original game. When we first got our first PC back in 1994 at Christmas, we had the shareware episode of Doom pre-installed on it. I think like one of my dad's employees or someone installed a load of games and things on there, and we had the shareware episode of Doom. We also had Jazz Jackrabbit, and that's the other game that I kind of associate with that Christmas. But yeah, played it to death, loved it. Eventually got my hands on the full version. In fact, I think I actually got my hands on Doom 2 before I got my hands on the full version of, I guess it would have been the Ultimate Doom. After that. But I played them all through over the years, many different times on a few different platforms, and I just love Doom. I love anything to do with Doom, but obviously I had Doom 3 on the original Xbox and on the PC, although it didn't really run very well on my PC. And the new ones, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, like them a lot. I prefer 2016. I'm not sure if that's a very popular opinion. I think Eternal kind of was a little bit overcomplicated and felt quite long, and introduced kind of a few sort of game mechanics like the platforming and stuff that I wasn't all that enamored with. But it was a bloody good game. Don't get me wrong. But I think I just prefer the slight simplicity, the slightly more simplistic 2016. Although of course that introduced a load of new stuff over the original games. But great games, great series. But Doom 64 is one that I never played. I'd never owned an N64 back in the day. I had friends that had them, but we didn't really play on them all that much, to be honest. I think the few times I did, it was GoldenEye or Mario Kart or whatever. But that was pretty much it. That was my experience with the 64. And of course, I picked it up and I played it for my N64 video that I put out a couple of months ago. Playing the N64 for the first time in 2023. I think I titled that in the end. And I liked it. I liked that, I only really had time to play sort of the first couple of levels, but I liked what I saw and I vowed to go back to it. And then this week I recorded a second channel video where I was looking at N64 emulators on the original Xbox. Now, if you haven't seen that video, it's on this channel, so I guess you can go and have a look for that after you've listened to this. And I just checked out some N64 games and sort of saw how they ran on the original Xbox, because I'm selling that N64 that I modded in that video. And of course, I'll link to that eBay listing, although that will probably be just about finishing by the time you're listening to this, depending on when you listen. I don't say this to promote that, of course. It's just part of the story. But yeah, so I went back and I revisited some games, and I found myself playing quite a bit more of Doom 64, and I thought, there's been a modern remaster of this. I should probably buy that on the PC and actually play it properly, finally. And Doom 64 is an interesting entry in the series because although the story is kind of connected to the other Doom games, id Software themselves weren't actually actively involved in the development of it. I think it was made by Midway, of all people, or maybe it was just published by them. But id Software, John Romero and John Carmack weren't involved because they were working on. I think they'd just released Quake, and maybe that's the point where it's started to drift apart and stuff. And it's officially sanctioned and officially licensed, and it's got the Doom logos and a lot of the same weapons and a lot of the same enemies and stuff, and the story's kind of connected. But other than that, it's kind of its own standalone thing, and kind of used a lot of the the N64 hardware to its advantage. So it's got like coloured lighting and stuff that the original Doom didn't have, and the level geometry, and you've got these huge like moving set pieces and things in the levels that are quite impressive that couldn't have been done using the original Doom engine. So, and just different levels, different story and stuff. And it's actually, I'd always kind of written it off, although apparently it was very well received at the time by critics. But I don't think it was a really big seller. I think as far as the public perception was concerned, it was like, oh, it's Doom. Well, that's like a 4-year-old game at this point. Oh, and it's not actually Doom. It's some kind of weird interpretation of it. And I don't think it really sort of landed very well with gamers of the time. I might be wrong. Obviously, the N64 wasn't really a world that I was kind of, moving in at the time. I wasn't moving in those circles and kind of involved with that world. So, but I think that was certainly the impression I got as an outsider. I mean, I would have been, how old was I in 97? I would have been like 13, wouldn't I? So yeah, the right age for it, and a big Doom fan. But anyway, I'm just rambling, aren't I? Good, that's what we're all here for. And I get the impression, I don't know whether to do a proper review of it. It's kind of a playing Doom 64 as a massive Doom fan for the first time in 2023. That's a long-winded video title, isn't it? That's not very good as far as clickbait's concerned. But it's I think whoever made the levels was quite a big John Romero fan. Obviously, he was quite sort of famously known for his big complex levels that he did for Doom 2. Where you've got buttons that you have to press in particular places that open up things on the other side of the level, and you've got these, it's kind of like puzzly elements almost. Obviously it kind of predated those kind of games, but really clever stuff, his levels. And if you played Sigil, which is his modern the modern episode that he made for the original Doom, came out a couple of years ago. I actually bought the big box release of that because I knew it was going to be good because it's John Romero. And it was. That's kind of more of the same. But if you're into that aspect of Doom, like big complex levels with, you got to run buttons and, find your way through mazes and find out how to lower a particular platform to get a particular key or whatever. It's kind of got that more kind of puzzly aspect to it rather than just sort of charging around shooting stuff. There's plenty of that as well. But really interesting game. I don't know whether to, like I said, I don't know whether to do kind of a standalone review of it. And I think sort of mentioning that, mentioning Doom Eternal as well. Obviously, I bought Doom Eternal, which was the last kind of mainstream Doom game to come out. Again, a couple of years ago, and Doom 64 was actually offered as a pre-order bonus for that. But I don't pre-order games, partly because I like to see kind of real world reviews and experiences and kind of see real people playing them before I commit to buying them, and partly because I don't really have any time to play games. Full stop. Never mind modern games, but I tend to buy them, like months or weeks after the fact, and by that point, even like sometimes by the time the Game of the Year edition comes out with all the DLC and all the extra stuff, and the price has been reduced, and if I'd pre-ordered it, and I just would have ended up like sitting on it for a year or whatever. But and also that whole aspect of kind of wanting to see the public perception of it before I throw my hard-earned cash at it. So I missed out on Doom 64 as the pre-order bonus, and I had to buy it on Steam, and it was like $3.99. But I think it's good value for money. One thing that's kind of struck me about Doom 64 is the music, or lack of, as well. Obviously, the Atari Jaguar version famously didn't have any music, but the soundtracks to the first two Doom games were a really big part. A really big part of the experience for me. Really fantastic music by Bobby Prince, famously ripped off from lots of sort of heavy metal tracks and that kind of thing. Maybe it had an influence on my taste in music. I don't know. But Doom 64, it's all this kind of weird, sort of creepy, atmospheric stuff. They took it in a very different direction, and it's quite cool. Gives the game its own kind of identity and atmosphere. But well worth checking out, and I guess you could consider that a review, I guess. But it was just going to be a very quick aside, just on something that I've been playing for the past, for the past couple of days. But there you go. Now, a tale for you. And if you're this far in, I hope you're going to continue to listen, even if I kind of lose you a bit with this one. And I apologise for this. And I wasn't sure whether to talk about this, because it's not really all that relevant to the retro gaming and retro computing kind of stuff that I'm known for. In fact, it's not relevant to that at all. But it's a YouTube thing. And funnily enough, my good friend Glenn from the channel CRG, in fact, you should definitely check out his channel, because if you're into my kind of stuff, you'll enjoy his as well. He does a lot of kind of retro computer restorations and repairs and all of that side of things. Really good channel. I will link him in the usual places. But he popped up earlier today, in fact, asking if anyone had heard of this thing called Skibidi Toilet. I know, bear with me. So, right. There is, so I signed up for Threads. God, there's so much backstory to this. Let's try and condense it down. So I signed up for Threads a couple of weeks ago, which is, of course, Meta, Facebook / Instagram. It's their Twitter alternative. And I think it became obvious a couple of weeks ago that Twitter was kind of imploding, and I think they must have been working on this thing behind the scenes for quite a while, and kind of wanted to capitalize on that and kind of grab some of those users that were jumping ship from Twitter, and released it. And evidently, it's not really wasn't really in any fit state to be. Well, no, that's unfair. It wasn't as complete as it probably should have been if it was being angled, being marketed as a Twitter competitor. And so if you have an Instagram account, there was a thing that popped up that was like, oh, do you want to create a Threads account? And I was like, yes. And part of the reason for that is because I have this YouTube channel, and my name is out there, Control-Alt-Reese. And I think people kind of expect me to be represented on these social platforms, but also, with all my kind of ambitions of global domination, inevitably one day I'm going to have 1 million subscribers, and people are going to want to impersonate me. So, for similar reasons to the reason that I signed up on Patreon and stuff like that, just to sort of grab my name, I thought I'll sign up for Threads as well. And hey, you know me, and all right, I'm 39 years old, but I'm still cool. I'm still hip. I'm down with the kids. I'm on trend with all the latest social comings and goings, of course. So I had to check out Threads, and I was on there on day one, and it was really nice for the first kind of week, and it smashed all sorts of records for like user growth and stuff as well, because it was literally just go onto Instagram and press one button, and there you go, you've got a Threads account, and it, copied all your profile and all of the accounts that you were following and stuff like that. And anyway, this is relevant to the toilet thing, I promise. And I follow a guy, evidently at some point I'd followed a guy on Instagram called Ludwig. Now, you may be familiar with Ludwig. He's a really huge gaming streamer on Twitch. And he's done, I think when I first discovered him, so he lives in LA, and he organised this chess boxing tournament last year, which a couple of YouTubers that I am a fan of participated in, and he hosted the whole thing, and I think he kind of funded the whole thing up front as well. Really, really huge event, and really well organised and went down really well. And I don't know, just because he was kind of friends with a lot of the people that I was already watching, and just because of the way he came across in that, I thought, I'll check out some of his other stuff. And he also releases videos on YouTube, which tends to be kind of edited versions of his Twitch streams. And I think I watched a few of those, and I was like, I like this guy. I like the cut of his jib. I'll subscribe to his channel. And then evidently followed him on Instagram at some point. And he was one of my fellow people who were there on Threads on day one. You see the stories all coming together, all the threads coming together. That's good. That kind of that's another thread in the thread of threads. This tangled ball of threads which I weave. What on earth was that? Anyway, right. So I followed Ludwig on Instagram, and of course created Threads account, as did he, and it automatically followed him. And he was posting about this thing called Skibidi Toilet, and he was basically asking, should I check it out? Now, what this thing is, and Glenn CRG mentioned this earlier as well, because apparently his 11-year-old is absolutely obsessed with this. And the way Ludwig described it, so Ludwig's 26, and the reason I know that is because he mentions it in quite a lot of his videos in the context of, I'm 26 years old, I'm too old for this, I'm going to have to retire soon, which obviously kind of watching it as a 39-year-old who does similar stuff and makes videos on YouTube, it's like, no, I don't, there's life in you yet, I'm sure. But anyway, I have promised to people that I won't talk about getting old on Reese Rambles again in future, because apparently it's not something we like to dwell on. But he was saying that I'm 26 years old, and this is a Gen Alpha meme. Now, apparently Generation Alpha, you've probably heard of the boomers and the zoomers and the millennials. I think I'm a millennial. People who are kind of coming of age in the kind of late 90s, turn of the millennium. The last generation that knew what it was like to not be online 24/7. And apparently the generation that were born after 2000 are known as Generation Alpha. I'm not really sure why, or Gen Alpha for short. And this is a meme that's kind of come out of and is massively popular with that generation. Now, the reason I kind of wanted to talk about this, and the reason I kind of thought it was relevant as a YouTuber, is because these videos, and there's 50 of them and counting, I think, based on the ones that Ludwig covered. These videos have 200 million views each. And to put that into perspective, 200 million views is Mr. Beast territory. I mean, that's the kind of view count that his videos get. And he is, the biggest individual creator on the platform. There are like music videos and sports stuff and news stuff and things like that do get more than that. But ultimately, if you're making videos that have got 200 million views per video, within like weeks of them being released, they are the biggest videos on YouTube. I mean, what I'm talking about here is like the biggest thing on YouTube right now. And all of the old people like us have absolutely no idea that it's going on. And to be honest, part of me kind of thinks that maybe we're better off not knowing. But it's quite interesting. It's such an interesting phenomenon. And Glenn said that his 11-year-old's obsessed with it, and has anyone heard of it? And I was like, yes, I have actually. I watched a video on this just the other day by this Ludwig guy. As he kind of went through them all one by one as a bewildered looking 26-year-old wondering what on earth is going on. So to save you having to watch them yourself, basically these videos are that it started off as a series of shorts, although they are being released as normal YouTube videos as well now. And they're between, I think the first one was like 11 seconds long, and they're sort of between sort of 10 seconds and a minute long, each of these videos. And at first it starts out, I'm going to have to describe this, aren't I? So if you remember Half-Life 2, which was sort of back 2002-ish, I think that came, 2004-ish? Who knows, around that era. When that came out, obviously there was, the Source engine, and Valve, who made that game, were very keen on people kind of modding it and being able to sort of do their own thing with it and kind of turn it into, their own kind of games and create their own content for it and that kind of stuff. And off the back of that came stuff like Source Filmmaker and Gary's Mod, where basically you could take all of the assets from the game and you could just build your own scenarios and stuff, and you could animate it all and then kind of record it as if you were there, like a cameraman recording what was going on. And use like the models from Half-Life 2, the various characters and enemies and buildings and things that were in that game. And what someone has done is they've taken Gary's Mod, which is, it's like 10 years old. 10 years old. Oh my God, it's 20 years old. It's 20 years old itself. Jesus. And they've made this series using Gary's Mod, or Gmod as it is often known. And essentially what it is the very first video, it's kind of set in this office building, and there's a toilet in the corner, and like the camera kind of swings around, and then this head pops up out of the toilet and starts singing this song. And the song sounds like this.
What the heck is going on you?
Skibidi bum bum bum, yes yes. Skibidi bum bum nim nim. Skibidi bum bum bum, yes yes. Skibidi bum bum nim nim.
Skibidi bum bum bum, yes yes, which is obviously where the Skibidi in Skibidi toilet comes from. And this song is a recurring theme throughout this series. So basically there's a toilet, and this song plays, and a head pops out of the toilet and it sings the song. And then it kind of turns to face the camera and makes this creepy face, and then the camera zooms right in on the face, like a jump scare kind of thing. And that's the first video. And like I say, it's like 11 seconds long. And you watch this thing, and it's like, what on earth is this? It's idiotic. I can see why little kids like this. And you kind of write it off. But because of the way that Ludwig is, and because he's such a good speaker and such an engaging presenter, I stuck with the video, and I carried on watching it, and I wanted to see how this thing unfolded. And he actually ended up watching all 50 of the videos in this series, and it turns into like this. It's like this whole ever escalating battle between all these different warring factions in this city. You've got the toilet guys who pop out of their toilets and they sing their song, and then they like zap people with their eyes and stuff. And then you've got these army of guys that come along who are obviously like the resistance, who are trying to fight them off. And, they've got like CCTV cameras for heads. And, every few videos, one side will kind of develop some kind of new attack to kind of, defeat the other side. And then, the other side will develop a way to kind of defend against it. And it's like this whole ongoing arms race thing. And it's one of those things that's, it's stupid, but it's, I don't know. I found myself getting sucked into it. And like I say, this is the thing that 10-year-olds like. But I'm not ashamed to admit that. But there's this whole kind of surrealist humour. And of course, like back in the 70s, there was, like Monty Python's Flying Circus. And then, I don't know, the 80s. It was like the Mary Whitehouse Experience. Was that an 80s thing? And then like in the 90s, we obviously kind of the era I was growing up, we had stuff like Monkey Dust, if you remember that, the cartoon sort of series that was on late night. I think that was on BBC Three in the very early days. That was probably early 2000s actually. But we had got quite surrealist comedy, stuff like Spaced, and all of that kind of weird stuff. And that's kind of continued. League of Gentlemen, kind of continued through the early 2000s. And this is just kind of this generation's version of that. A generation of people who've grown up on the internet, watching short videos, people who are permanently online, watching on mobile devices. And it's just kind of, it's just that kind of surrealist humour, but kind of built using languages and cues and things that generation understands. And not to want to. I'm not qualified to pick it apart and analyse it or anything like that. But I just found the whole thing really interesting because it was just like this whole world that obviously we're not usually sort of privy to, and it was like, and there's some creativity there. There's as he went through and kind of picked apart the various videos, you could see. There was like inspiration from various things that, anime and stuff like that. And, very specific things that I don't know anything about it. But, I like to keep an open mind with this stuff. I think because I am online and I am creating stuff and making videos, obviously, I can sit here and I can be boring and I can fix old computers and I can do that. And there's plenty of people out there who want to watch that. And, that's fine. I enjoy that. I say boring in a. I don't mean to kind of dismiss what I do, but it's really interesting to see it's kind of what's going on, and it's the reason. And I've mentioned this before in these rambles. It's the reason I watch people like Mr. Beast and people like that, because it's just interesting to see what the wider picture of YouTube looks like and what kind of stuff people are watching for entertainment. And it was just really funny earlier today, just to, having watched that and kind of having kept it all to myself and not really been sure who to discuss it with. It was just really funny to see someone like Glenn just come out of the woodwork and be like, has anyone heard of this thing? Because it's weird. So, yeah. So there you go. But I'm glad I've had the chance to get that off my chest. To be honest, you're not really missing much if you don't watch it. But hey, if you want to see what the kids are all up to these days. Oh, apparently there's a Roblox game as well. So I'm not really all that familiar with Roblox, but apparently that's quite big with the kids. And it's old man Reese here talking about the kids and the youth of today. But it's this game. It's like I think it's like a third-person game where you're basically people can kind of make their own games within the game. And he was saying that his kids basically have been playing basically like a game adaptation of this meme that somebody's made in Roblox that apparently is also massively popular in its own right. So there's like this whole kind of ecosystem of memes that are growing up around this meme, and it's like, oh. Wow, it's quite a fascinating world. So anyway, that's all I have for you for this week's ramble. Bit of a weird one, but normal service shall resume. I say that every week, don't I? Normal service shall. I don't think there is such a thing as normal with Reese Rambles, is there? What is normal? Maybe I don't want to be normal. But I'll do something else next week anyway. But I need to go and do some work and prepare for my best friend's wedding. Not the 90s film, but was that a film? Sounds like that was a film. But anyway, so I will see you all next week. Thank you very much. Go and subscribe to CRG because he's a lovely chap, and he's the one who gave me the confidence to talk about Skibidi Toilet. Okay, bye.